history of this car and so on. Don't be afraid to ask a question. There's no such thing as a dumb question. I might give you a dumb answer, but there are no dumb questions. I am also the dispatcher today, so occasionally I'm going to have to break in because the trains can't move unless I give them authority. So you'll hear the radio speak up occasionally. That's my other job.
Okay, want to stay on?
Of course, when this car was built, they hadn't invented radios yet, but we use it for safety purposes and make sure that everything runs the way it should.
383, 6 cars.
They're doing switching at the back of the property. That's what you're hearing there. All right.
They said he was going really fast, and he flipped 4 times. He didn't hit anything. You see, it didn't roll or the
Up to our right, you'll see car bar number 3. That's where most of our large steamroller and passenger cars are located. Make sure you walk through there. We've got diners, observation cars, sleepers, lounge cars, and so on. Some of them are open. You can walk through them. And there are raised platforms all along, so you can take a look inside and see what they look like. See what it was like to ride a train 100 years ago. Our first stop will be Electric Park.
Okay.
We call this Electric Park for a couple of reasons. First of all, we do have a picnic room out here. Not all the tables are set up right now, but sometimes people do bring a lunch out here. The bigger reason is because we are honoring the fact that many electric railways and streetcar lines years ago owned their own electric parks, amusement parks or bandstands or whatever. Remember, that was back in the days when the roads were horrible and nobody owned a car. So if you wanted to go out on a weekend and enjoy yourself with a picnic, you took the streetcar or the interurban. And it was a source of extra revenue on days when people were not going to work, but they were going to the electric park. There are still a few of those electric parks around, although most people don't know they are. We have a very famous one right near Chicago. Can anybody name it? You're gonna hate yourself.
Electric Park?
Anybody hear of Ravinia? Ravinia up in Highland Park was originally built by the Chicago and Milwaukee Electric Railway in about 1904. The railroad owned it for many years. Later on, the railroad went out of business, but the park survives as the summer home of the Chicago Symphony and a lot of other concerts. They've got a couple of more weeks still running at Ravinia. It's a great place if you've never been there. And by the way, you can still get there by train. The Metra serves the front gate. They stop right at the platform. And if you show the conductor your concert ticket, you get a free ride. So it's a good deal. That park continues on. This streetcar, 100 years old, built in 1923, originally was what we call a typical Chicago streetcar. By that I mean there was a two-person crew. Motorman up here in the front, conductor in the back. When you got on at the back. You paid your fare to the conductor, moved into the car, found a seat if you could, or if you couldn't, you stood up, hold on to this. And when you wanted to get off, you came up to the front, went out the front doors that the motorman opened for you. It was a very efficient design, and most Chicago streetcars were that way because the flow of traffic came through from the back to the front, and all the seats were filled, and all the standing space and so on. In later years, in the late 40s, in order to save some money, the company decided we can eliminate one salary. We'll get rid of the conductor, turn it into a one-person car. The motorman will get to do everything. He collects the fares, he opens the doors, you get on, you get off, all at the front end. Well, the problem was they did save money on a salary, but the car didn't work well because now everybody bunched at the front end. Nobody went to the back. You couldn't get off back there. You had to come up to the front. So it was hard to fill the car, and they found out that the car couldn't handle nearly as many people as it used to. So in later days, this car operated strictly on lines that were kind of light, that didn't have a lot of traffic. And they saved the two-person cars for the streets that had heavy business, like Clark Wentworth, Broadway State, Halsted Street, Western Avenue, and so on. This car was retired in 1953, and it would have been scrapped like all the other ones were, except that they decided to use it for a storeroom. So they took the motors out, they took the seats out, they put in shelving, they put it at one of the car barns, and people just use it to store tools and things like that. When we got it, you can imagine it was kind of a shambles. The floor was worn out, the seats were gone, the woodwork looked really horrible. So we had to replace the floor. This is all a new floor. We had to replace the seats. These are not the original seats, but they're the same kind that the car had. And all of the woodwork was redone. We put in new shades, we put these in. These are interesting. The originals came from 1923. We found the company that built them, and they're still in business, and they made another set for us. So we were able to do that. The big problem was motors. Without motors, this car wouldn't go anywhere. It'd just sit there. And we didn't have them. There are 4 motors, 2 at this end, 2 at that end. So we began a long detective hunt to try to find the motors. They are special motors. They're kind of small. This car was built in Philadelphia by Brill. We couldn't find any motors like that in this country. So we did some detective work and discovered in Alexandria, Egypt, they were still running streetcars with this kind of motor, built by Brill in the United States. We were able to get a set of motors plus a couple of spares, bring them over here, refurbish them, put them under the car, and now the car runs. So we're very happy about that. It took about 12 to 15 years to restore this car. But when we got done, we were glad because we could give you a ride and show you what it was like to ride a Chicago streetcar. Question?
I was wondering if, when you can't find a certain engine like this, I thought you found this at a junkyard.
Well, it was junk, but we got it from the transitory. It had not gone to a scrapyard. If it had gone there, we wouldn't have gotten it.
A train scrapyard? That's like 100% true.
Yeah.
There's 2 different kinds of scrapyard: a plane, a train, and a car.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, people who scrapped railroad cars, it's a different kind of business entirely. They're a lot heavier, but there's a lot more steel. So, anyhow, yes, sir.
What's the voltage that those motors run on?
600 volt direct current. That was pretty standard for electric railroads. Streetcars, elevated, interurban. So we have, right behind us, there's a little building, a white building with green trim. That's our substation. That's where we bring in electricity at high voltage, AC. We convert it to 600 volt direct current and put it in the trolley wire that's running up overhead.
So everything running on this route 600 volts.
That's correct. If you ride the interurban train later, it's running off of the same voltage.
Thank you.
Oh boy. I think they're about 60 horse each. They're not real big. They don't have, of course, we never pull anything. It's just, that motor you just heard is the air compressor. Turns on automatically. In a little while, it'll shut itself off.
For the brakes.
All right, let's proceed around our car ride. I'll try to do it smartly as we go.
Oh, damn, Stinger.
Most of the equipment in there has not yet been restored. Next time we Springfield Avenue. We call it that not because of any geographic feature, but because of that little building. That shed is over 125 years old, built for the Rockford and Interurban Electric Railway. It was at a stop in Rockford, Illinois called Springfield Avenue. The Interurban is long, long gone, but somehow the building survived as a farmer's shed. And when we found out about it, we asked, could we have it? He said, sure. So we brought it here, restored it a little bit, and made it back into what it was intended to be, a waiting shelter. A number of our buildings are part of our historic collection. This is one of them. The main station, as far as we know, is the oldest passenger station west of Pittsburgh, built in 1859. It was originally in Marengo, Illinois, about 10 miles west of here. The building in front here is barn number 9. That is our largest car barn. In there you'll find our large steam locomotives, also some of our large electric engines, and our Nebraska Zephyr train from 1936. You're encouraged to walk through any of the barns that are open to look at the rest of our collection. Many of the pieces of equipment have signs on the side that give you a little bit of history of what you're looking at. Any questions so far? Yes, sir, back there.
Is there any specific thing in that shed that's being restored that you can share? Like, do you know what's in there being restored?
Offhand, I don't. These barns get switched so often.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what's in there. I have enough trouble keeping track of the electric cars. Yes, sir.
What's the top speed of this train, actually?
If we really got rolling, we could probably do 35. It's a streetcar. It wasn't designed to go fast.
I know.
Yeah.
So you're saying like the speed limit is 35?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about down the hill?
Well, we don't have many hills out here, so I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, we don't normally take this on the main line. It was designed to stop every block, so they never made them to go real fast. Some of the streamlined streetcars could do about 40, but they weren't supposed to. They did it without people knowing. You notice in front of us we have our one-man track gang. If any of you would like to work on track, we can always use volunteers. The rest of the track crew is working at the east end of the railroad. We have quite a few people that work on track.
It's volunteer.
Just replaced a lot of the wooden ties along here. You see the old ties are out on the side. The new ties are underneath.
Okay.
Locomotive 1630 is on operating the steam locomotive. It's not running this weekend. It will be running on Labor Day. Right now, one of them is fired up today to make testing. You'll see it. It's over on the other side of this barn right there. The Roaring Elephant are the electric trains. The buildings to the right, line 6, 7, or 8, where most of our electric car collection is stored. We have interurbans from Wisconsin, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri. We also have a number of Chicago elevated trains in there. And our Chicago streetcar collection is in barn number 7. We have the largest streetcar collection from Chicago in the world, including an 1859 horse car, a cable car from the 1880s, one of the first electric streetcars from 1895. Watch your step there. And one of the last streetcars, the Streamliner from 1948. All streetcar service ended in Chicago in 1958.
What time is the diesel?
The diesel's supposed to make another trip at 3 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
They're running every hour on the hour, and they're all together.
Okay.
Yep. The brick building in front of us is our diner. If you're looking for lunch or refreshments, I believe it's still open. It should stay open until about 3 o'clock. And it is air conditioned, so if you'd like to stop in there, you're more than welcome. Our next stop will be Central Avenue.
This is an L train, an old L train.
stuff.
You can head up. You can go.
Thanks for riding.
I mean, the only thing we really do is get on that bigger train all the way back and forth.
Watch your step.
This is the old L train.
If you want to do that, we can do it.
I think we can get on
You
there.
stop very often.
Okay, let's do that.
That'll be.
Yeah.
Someone already got a train.
Thank you.
Yeah, someone bought a train. Yeah, we'll buy trains on the way out.
The building to the left, the orange and green building, is our Chicago Elevated Station. That was originally located in Cicero, Illinois, at 50th Avenue on what was then the Douglas Park Rapid Transit, now known as the Pink Line. They replaced that station back in the 70s with a new station at Cicero Avenue. And so we said, could we have it? And they said, well, it's going to cost you. We said, how much? They said $1. So we paid them $1, moved the station out here, put it back to work, so our elevated trains can load from a genuine Chicago elevated station. The building to the right, barn number 4, is our electric car shop. You can't, it's not open to the public, but if you like to look in the end there, you'll see some of our restoration projects that are going on right now. We have a 1907 Chicago elevated car and a 1923 streetcar from the Fox River Valley. They are both getting close. We hope maybe they'll be running next year. We'll see. Want to get aboard? Come on aboard. Also, I do want to remind you, near the gate where you came in, make sure you
Someone
visit
just
our
got in the
hobby
Iron
shop.
locomotive.
That's where our model railroad
The one right in
display is
front of us,
located.
the switcher.
We have a number of model trains running in various sizes, and we're also selling some of them. So if you would like to increase your collection of model trains, make sure you stop in at the hobby shop before you leave. We're glad you came. Our next stop will be Depot Street. That's where we make connections with the mainline trains. Next mainline train will be our Warren, Elgin, and Urban, leaving at 2 o'clock in about 12 minutes.
Sammy, do you want a train?
Sammy, do you want to get a train before we go home or not?
Listen.